Good morning, YouTube, and today I'll be profiling for you my alien deck profile. This is now, if you watch the Dirac and the Evolve deck profile, this is the third one in those set that I've gotten from my good friend Evan because he's just a little bit too busy with life, and he said, hey, why don't you take it and make it a profile? And I said, okay, sure. And I kind of kept it to his own style, and I even kept his older sleeves that are a little bit too big. But a little preemptive warning before I hop into this. This may not be the most optimal build, but it's because there's only 7 cards in here that don't deal with aliens or A counters, and 2 of those cards deal with reptiles, and so it's a lot more fun. But this is a very broad archetype, and I think I've done the best I can with it, and it's quite a fun deck that I hope you give it a shot. Anyway, without any further ado, let's hop right into it. Starting off, we have 2 Alien Overlord. This is great because you can special summon them from hand. There's some nice little interactions you can do with it with one of the newer alien cards that I'll get to a little bit later. He's one of the few monsters that just instantly you can target a monster and you can just distribute an A counter, which is what this deck really needs, is something that can distribute A counters pretty quickly. And this is a decent, pretty big dude that can actually accomplish that. Next, we run 2 Alien Warriors. This guy's another guy that can distribute A counters pretty decently. He is one of your higher beat sticks of the deck, and so that's why I kind of keep him at 2. I might swap out this next dude for a third one, but I always liked Alien Hunter because he was a cool little water one, and the kind of like matches and the motif. Anyway, it gives it a second attack if it destroys a monster with an A counter, so it's not the best thing in the world, but he's kind of cool, and so I decided to keep him in there for that fact. 1 Alien Kid. Now, I've seen a lot of people run a little bit more of him. You get to distribute A counters on monsters your opponents, your special summon monsters your opponent controls, which is pretty darn cool. But I haven't found the desire or the need to kind of bump him up. In my opinion, he's pretty darn good at 1 as his own. Next, we run 2 Alien Telepath. Now, I gotta reread a lot of these. There's a lot of effects that aliens have. Once per turn, you can remove 1 A counter from an opponent's monster, which you're gonna hopefully do a lot of, and pop back row. And so that's pretty darn cool in itself. I keep it at 2. It's 1600 attack, so it's not too bad. Next, the heart and soul of this deck, in my opinion, and I think most people agree with me, is Alien Ammonite. Not like the Pokemon Ammonite, but the same kind of concept. Whenever you use normal summon, you get special summon an alien from your graveyard. Makes for some great level 4, or some level 5 synchro plays. Just an all-around fantastic card if you get it to go off. Next, we're on triple of Alien Dog. Alien Dog, whenever you normal summon an alien monster, you can special summon them from your hand. Gives you some extra oomph for some 4 plays, or if you pull them with your Alien Ammonite, you can go to 7s pretty easily. It's just an all-around great card that gives you a little bit of pluses that this deck kind of needs. 1 Alien Mars, I was going to take him completely out, and then I had a duel the other day where my opponent couldn't do anything because all monsters with A counters are negated. And that is just like, what? That's pretty darn cool. And so I keep him in there because it's not that bad of an effect. So I recommend trying him out. One of the non-alien monsters is a Rescue Rabbit. I only run 1 because I only run the 3 Alien Shock Troopers. Alien Shock Trooper in himself is a 1900 attack monster, which, I mean, if you run him in older beatdown decks, is pretty cool. But just running 1 Rescue Rabbit for your few targets, it just seems pretty darn great for me, and so I keep him at 3. Next, we run a triple of the Alien Cell Breeding Device. It distributes an A counter during each of your standby phases, and so, like, if you have 2 of these going off at the same time, it generates a lot, surprisingly, with some of the stall cards in this deck. Plus, it's a continuous effect, too, that works really well with Golgar whenever we get into the extra deck. And so I decided to run a playset, and it's run pretty darn well for me so far. Next, I was talking about one of those newer spell cards. This is one that just recently came out in Invasion Vengeance, and A-Cell Recombination Device. Now, this is a Foolish Burial. You get to target a face-up monster on the field, send an alien monster from your deck to your graveyard, and if you do, place an A counter on that monster equal to level of the sent card. And then during your main phase, except the turn you activate it, you can banish it and and search your deck for an alien monster, which is really cool. But a fun thing like you can do is either A, you could set up for your Ammonite and just give 4 A counters on the field, which is pretty darn cool, and send like an alien monster from your deck to grave. But like you can also send Alien Overlord, and that's 6 alien A counters, which is pretty darn cool to see in this kind of a deck. So this is something the deck really needed. Next, I run 2 Code A Ancient Ruins. Each time a face-up alien monster is destroyed, place an A counter on it. Once per turn, you can move 2 A counters on the field. Special summon an alien monster from your graveyard. Again, that just adds to the consistency of the deck, plus the continuous spell card, which adds to the fact of the oomph that Golgar can have. And so I like it at 2. Next, I run a triple of Mysterious Triangle. This is actually something that was really fun. I didn't realize how good this card is. Destroy a monster on the field with an A counter. Then you can special summon 1 level 4 alien monster from your deck during the end phase. That is pretty darn cool. You get just instant spot removal, and it gives you a plus after that. Pretty darn awesome. Next, 2 of the other cards that aren't archetype specific for this deck are Swords Revealing Light. This works really great with Golgar, plus this is a slower deck as well, so you kind of need to have some oomph to slow down your opponent to kind of go at your own pace. So I run 2 Swords Revealing Light because you can bounce it back to your hand with Golgar, activate it again, and you just can keep your opponent from attacking over and over. And so Swords has been a fantastic addition to this deck ever since I put it in. Next, I only run 2 Alien Brain. Now this is one that I looked and looked and looked, I could not find a third. So I only run 2 of it, but I'd run 3 if I had it. When a reptile monster you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster set in the graveyard, you take that opponent's monster and it becomes a reptile. It doesn't say anything about returning that monster, so really it just says take control of your opponent's monster after it destroys your own. That is pretty darn great, and one of those strange things that you don't normally see in a deck. Next, I run 2 Offering to the Snake Deity. You tribute a reptile monster and pop 2 cards on the field. Next, I run 1 Massive Gnosis. This is one of those strange gimmicky things that you can only activate when an alien monster, while you control an alien monster, select and take control of up to 3 opponent's monsters. They each have A counters on them, so it requires you to have the A counters first. It's destroyed during the end phase of the turn. It's activated, but hopefully by that point in time, you're going to use those monsters as plussing, plus it just gives you some nice advantage where you can hopefully go for some extra push. So I don't maximize on this card, but it works great for as it is. Next, I run triple of Plant Pollutant Virus. Again, I have to reread some of these because it's really difficult to remember all of them. You tribute an alien monster, destroy all face-up monsters without A counters your opponent controls. And until the end of your opponent's third turn, then you place an A counter on each one that they special summon. So they summon. That's pretty darn awesome. It's a massive board clearance that just keeps on giving. And then rounding up our deck, we run 2 Call the Haunted, because again, you kind of want to see your alien monsters come back and use them as to distribute more A counters and go into more synchro plays. So Call the Haunted is a fantastic substitution, in my opinion, for that. Moving on to our extra deck, we run 2 of the Heart and Soul of this deck. In my opinion, I'd probably run 3 if I had 3, but I only have 2. Cosmic Fortress Golgar. I always call him Goldar because I'm an old Power Rangers junkie, but let me read his effect verbatim because it's quite lengthy. Requires Alien Ammonite, which really that's your 1 tuner anyway, and 1 or more non-tuner alien monsters. Once per turn, you can select any number of face-up spell and trap cards, return those cards to the owner's hands, and distribute A counters among the monsters on the field equal to the number of cards returned. Once per turn, you can remove 2 A counters from anywhere on the field to destroy 1 card your opponent controls. So it's just like, you can return your opponent's field spells, you can return your own cards, you distribute A counters after that point, you can reset your Swords Revealing Light, and you get an instant just destruction. That's pretty fantastic, and he's a 2600 beat stick for a 5-star synchro. That is pretty darn awesome. Since 5s are really easy to go to in this deck, we run an Allied Justice Catastor and a Bountiful Artemis, Armades, that just like standard level 5 synchros that have always been great. We run 1 level 4 synchro because there are a lot of level 3 like Alien Dog and the Alien Mars are both level 3s, so you need something that gives you a little bit of extra oomph. So an old entity Hastor is a monster that can just steal your opponent's cards, and it works really great. It's an underrated 4-star synchro, in my opinion, that I recommend giving a shot. Moving on to our 7s, because we don't really have too much possibility to go on 6s, we just jump right to 7. We're in a Clear Wing and an Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon for their 7 options. Moving on to our 8s, a Psyframe Lord Omega, Crimson Blader, Stardust, just generic level 8s that work fantastically in any Synchro deck. And we run a Trishula because it is quite possible to be able to go into Trishula. Moving on to our Xyz, we run King of the Feral Imps because he is a searcher for reptiles, so most reptile decks run him. 1 Castell and 1 Silent Honor Arc. And we do run a Link Gaia Saber because you can use it with your Tribe Infecting Virus. Obviously, this would be a Decode Talker, but I'm letting a friend borrow it at the time, and so I still just run this guy because he's a decent, viable alternative, especially because you don't go into too heavy of extra deck monsters in this deck, so it works out just as fine. And that's going to wrap up my Alien deck profile. This is definitely a deck that has received a bunch of support over time, but just has never had really a moment to shine. And understandably so, it takes a while to set up. There's a lot of different effects. There's a lot of different ways you can build the deck. But I've seen a lot of people actually have some decent success with this kind of a deck, and I think at the right hands, it could be something that's pretty great, and I think could surprise a lot of people. Anyway, I hope you take something from this, learn something from this, and be sure to leave me some feedback, because I'm still somewhat new to the deck. I've been working on it for a few months, but definitely want to know so much more about what this deck is capable of. Anyway, thank you very much, and have a great day.